Chers amis, chers auditeurs, chers lecteurs, amis des éditions du Verbe, bienvenue sur la chaîne des éditions du Verbe. C'est un plaisir de vous retrouver. François-Xavier Consoli, votre serviteur. Et aujourd'hui, une émission un peu spéciale, un entretien un peu spécial parce que ça sera un entretien en anglais, un entretien que je vais mener avec Monsieur E. Michael Jones. Dear Mr. Jones, good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Good to be here.
Nice to be here with you. So this meeting will be in English, so there will be a little transcription on the video, but it will be most suitable for you and for me to have this interview in English. So we'll have this interview about a book that was published a month ago by Les Éditions du Verbe. And this book's name is Cultural Wars in the West, Les guerres culturelles en Occident. And this book, we're going to talk about the book, but before I'm going to present you for the viewers, because a lot of people, unfortunately in France, don't know about you, but you should be well known. You should be recognized because you have a lot of work. You publish a lot of books.
I
And
agree.
You are a journalist. Sorry.
I agree. I should be well known because I think like a European more than I think like an American. Especially French intellectuals. When I was in my early years, France, Paris was the center of the intellectual universe. I remember reading as a teenager, reading Sartre and Camus when in the early 1960s, mid 1960s. So it's important. I've always felt that it was important to reach the French audience because they are as a group, they are deeper thinkers than the Americans. And in many ways, I'm a displaced European. I've just written a book about American identity, which is a very complex situation. So I'm eager to make contact with the French reading public.
This is one of my work today, is to introduce you to the French audience. And that's the reason why we're going to talk about this book. So, Les guerres culturelles en Occident, Cultural Wars in the West. You, Dr. Michael Jones, you are an intellectual, former university teacher, lecturer, and still a prolific writer and journalist, and very important detail, devout Catholic. So that's very important for our purpose here. You are a true mouthpiece and controversial figure at the same time of the Catholic counter-revolution in the United States, and that the reason why you are a very interesting intellectual, because that makes you all much more interesting. Let's be honest. And in your work, you are focusing on the moral decline of contemporary society and expresses your views through many conferences, interviews, and books, such as this one. So, Cultural Wars in the West. The book is a summary of several published articles in your monthly publication, Cultural Wars, which is a very old publication, I think. And you are talking about a lot of subjects, a lot of topics. So in this book, for example, that will be my first question. In this book, you are introducing a very interesting point of view about sexual revolution. This is the first article of the book. And this says this sexual revolution you are talking about, you are focusing maybe on the views of Marquis de Sade, for example. And can you explain a little bit why,
Yes.
as a thinker, do you think this is interesting to talk about authors, writers, such as Marquis de Sade, because this is one of the examples of the sexual revolution that is coming.
Right. Yes. So this book came about because I met Maria Pumier in Iran. We traveled all over Iran together, and she became aware of my writing, and she was gracious enough to translate the articles as they appeared and post them on her website, and some of them would be even published on Réseau. Is it Réseau International or something like that? Anyway, a bigger website. And one of the the first time I went to Iran, I gave a speech on the topic of my book, Libido Dominandi. Sexual liberation is a form of political control. That is the thesis of my book. And in order to understand how that began, you have to go to the Marquis de Sade. There's no other place. This is the man who created the modern version of using sexuality as a form of political control. You have to talk about the Marquis de Sade. Their sex, it goes back, the understanding goes all the way back to the Bible. If you talk about the story of Samson and Delilah, you're talking about using sexuality as a military weapon against the man who could not be conquered in battle, but he could be seduced by a woman. So sexuality was in many ways more important than the battle, the military arm. When I published this book, came out in 2003. 1 year later, I had exact vindication from Israel. When the IDF pulled into Ramallah, the first thing they did was take over the Palestinian TV stations and broadcast pornography over these TV stations. Now, why did they do that? If you're an American, you believe that pornography means freedom. We're not free unless we can look at pornography. Well, this is the exact opposite. Are you trying to tell me that the IDF wanted to bring freedom to the Palestinians? No, they wanted to subjugate them by controlling their passions. That happened 1 year after my book came out as a total vindication of my thesis. And now it's included as the first chapter in the second edition of Libido Dominandi. So to get go ahead.
Go on. Oh, okay.
So I'll get personal right now. Okay. Okay. I was born in 1948, 4 months after the Kinsey Report came out. The Kinsey Report was an attempt to use sexual liberation to control the people of the United States of America. That's precisely what it was. It came out in a letter that the Rockefellers wrote to the draft board in South Bend, Indiana. I was a guinea pig in that experiment. My generation were guinea pigs in this experiment. We grew up under that bad sign. And it wrecked my generation.
Yeah, that's very interesting because since you were born in 1948, since you are a boomer, just like my parents, you're right to say that you are a guinea pig from this sexual experiment that was implemented in your brain, let's say, because that's why I wanted to begin with the Marquis de Sade, because sexual revolution was maybe the number one fighting for your generation. And that's why I wanted to ask you about this revolution, because now as you remarkably underline the fact that we are using, but not us, but the system, American system, call it anything you want, but we are using now sexual revolution and pornography, etc., as a weapon. And that is very interesting because I wanted you to explain, maybe by using Marquis de Sade, by using any pornographic,
right. Okay,
I don't know.
So let's begin with the Marquis de Sade, because that's where the modern use of sexuality as a form of control began. So we're talking about the moment when it looks as if the French Revolution may fail. The Vendée, there's an uprising in the west of France. The Catholics are marching toward Paris. It looks as if they're going to overthrow the revolution. It looks as if it's going to be a successful counter-revolution. At this point, the Marquis de Sade writes a kind of appeal to the French people. Yet once more, Frenchmen, we have to rise to the occasion. We have to preserve the revolution. How do we do that? How are we going to preserve the revolution? The engine of the revolution is passion. We have to reignite passion. And so what he proposes is exhibit women naked in the theaters. That's
Yeah.
a
Yes,
solution.
indeed.
That's it.
Mhm.
That's a solution. Now, there's a technological problem there. Okay. If you have a big theater, you can bring lots of people into the theater, but the women are so far away, you can hardly see them. If you have a small theater, you can see the women, the naked women, better, but you can only have a few people in the theater. So, what is the solution? There is a technological solution to this problem. And it began in France with daguerre, the daguerreotype. It began with photography, where you could, within weeks of the invention of the camera, someone got his girlfriend to take off her clothes, and this was the beginning of pornography in France. France was famous for pornography in the 19th century, famous for pornography. And then
Yeah.
that increased when you had the motion picture. Again, it's an advance in technology, which means an advance in pornography. This is what happened in America when the Jews created Hollywood. They immediately saw they could make a lot of money by producing, slowly heading toward pornography. It led to a huge battle in the United States between the Catholics and the Jews, and the Catholics beat the Jews in 1933 when they instituted the production code. That lasted for 31 years, and then the Jews beat the Catholics with the introduction of a film called The Pawnbroker, which broke the production code, and that led directly to the fact that everyone has pornography now on his cell phone. It's a Jewish operation. I know this got me in trouble in France, but you can't understand pornography unless you understand how the Jews took control of Hollywood, and they used the film to promote pornography in the United States as a form of control.
Yeah, of course, the viewers noticed, I'm pretty sure that you are pretty controversial, but I don't. This is not my point here. My point here is that I'm asking you questions, and I'm believing in freedom of speech, so you can answer anything you want. But I wanted to focus maybe on the Marquis de Sade and the sexual revolution because, and this is my second question, you to explain a bit to our viewers your work. Why are you focusing maybe on the religious side of the events?
What do you mean? Well, I don't know what you mean. Are you
Yeah,
mean by talking about Catholics and Jews in America? Is that what
for
you're talking
example,
about?
yeah, for example, in your
Okay, let
work,
me
you
let
have
me let me explain to you ethnic
okay,
identity in America. Okay,
okay,
people come from America from all over the world, and after 3 generations, they lose the language of their forebears, and religion replaces country of origin as ethnic identity in America. So America is a place that has 3 ethnic groups: Protestant, Catholic, Jew, and they've always been at war with each other. Now we're watching. Emmanuel Todt addressed this issue in La Défaite de l'Occident. He said basically the hidden grammar of America is Protestantism, and Protestantism is evaporating, and that's going to mean the end of the American empire. That's the thesis of Emmanuel Todt's book. So that's happening now. The Protestants are disappearing, and the Muslims are becoming more important. They're not as important as they are in France, but they are a significant figure that's increasing now. So that's why I'm talking about religion. Religion is the basis of ethnic identity in America, and American history is nothing but a battle between these 3 ethnic groups. So America is like Yugoslavia. 3 religions: Serb, Croat, Muslim, and they're always at conflict with each other. That's the same thing. That's why I have to talk about religion in America. De Tocqueville talked about this. He talked about the importance of religion for American identity. So it's not a new idea for the French.
of course. But the thing is, and that is the way I'm using here because I want you to be, I want the French public to be more familiar with your work, and that's the reason why we are doing this interview. Is that religious is very important in history, and I suppose I think you will agree with me, but it is very important to not forget about the religious aspects of the event, and that the reason why in your book, in this book, you are talking a lot about religion, and especially how different religion, different ethnic groups, different ethnic and religious groups are fighting each other, especially in the United States, but at the same thing now in France.
Right. You're absolutely right. And I think Sorel had the right idea. Sorel and Donnet, when they did, what was they called? Égalité et réconciliation,
Yeah.
where they
Yeah.
understood that the grammar, the hidden grammar now is leading toward an alliance between Christians and Muslims against the common enemy, which is the Jews. And this has become unavoidable in American politics right now. It is the main crisis right now. I'll tell you what the main crisis is in conservatism. It's a choice between America first and Israel first. We have to make this decision. The conservative movement is being torn apart now by this division. Is it America first or is it Israel first? And we have to answer this question because we can't go on anymore. The whole Trump coalition, Make America Great Again, is falling apart, splitting into two sides. One side says America first, the other side says Israel first.
Yeah. So this is a good way to talk about this issue because I wanted to talk a little bit about the United States because you are aware that what's happening right now in the United States is coming in Europe, in France, in Germany, Spain, etc., within 5 or 10 years gap, but it's happening. What is happening right now in the United States since the re-election of Donald Trump in 2024 and now the controversial politics by Trump? I don't know. This is not my. I'm not giving any. I'm not giving my personal views about this. But is your country founded on the American flag, on the national anthem, on the will to be an American? Is it falling apart right now? Is the United States is falling apart?
Okay, we have a crisis right now. So
Yeah.
I'm going to introduce an idea that is probably familiar to the French, but not to Americans, which is that America has three republics, has had three republics. We don't talk this way here, but I know the French do talk this way. So the first republic began in 1781 with the creation of the Constitution. It ended in 1861. Nothing lasts longer than 80 years. 1861 was the Civil War. That was the second birth of the Second Republic, beginning with the Civil War. That began in 1865 and it lasted till 1945, which is the beginning of the Third Republic. That was the end of World War II. The founding myth of the Third Republic is the Holocaust. And this was the beginning of Jewish power in America. This is when people started using the word Judeo-Christian, which they didn't use before. That is going to last for 80 years because nothing lasts longer than 80 years. We are now at the end of the Third Republic and the beginning of the Fourth Republic because 80 years after 45 is 2025. And this is what Emmanuel Todt is addressing in his book. He doesn't use these terms. He's not as familiar with American history as I am, but everyone senses that we're at the end of an era and we're beginning a new era. And the people who were powerful during the Third Republic want to hold on to that power. And that main group is the Jews. The Jews control our politics in America. That is the fundamental crisis that we're facing. It created a reaction called America First. And now there are people who are saying, look, if you like Israel, go to Israel, but leave us alone. Don't take our money to support Israel. This is the fundamental battle right now, and we don't know which way it's going. So the Jews control the media, but the majority of the people are walking away. And the most significant event, which happened yesterday, is the election of Mamdani as mayor of New York City, the most important city in America. This is a Muslim who was elected. He's 34 years old, and he got elected because he's the only candidate who addressed the genocide in Gaza. That has turned the entire world against Israel, and the political process now is finally responding to that fundamental fact. This is the beginning of the Fourth Republic.
Okay, so that's very interesting. So you think that the election of the new mayor of New York City is a sign that in the United States there are changing, there are political changing, and this will be the fourth, like, as you said, the fourth republic.
This is the beginning of the Fourth Republic. The
Okay.
Jews were always traditionally voted as Democrats. This proves that the Jews have lost control of the Democratic Party. They only control because the Democratic Party is the party of the left, and the left now supports the Palestinians throughout the world. You know, whether you're even the Jews, if you're a Jewish leftist, you support Palestine. You don't support Zionism. Zionism is Jewish nationalism. Bolshevism is Jewish internationalism. They are two completely different ideologies, and the Jewish internationalism was dominant during the Third Republic, the Bolshevik Revolution, but it only lasted less than 80 years, okay? And it's been eclipsed by Zionism, which is the Jewish ideology of the 21st century, but that's disappearing now too. And I'm predicting now, I'm not the only guy. Ehud Barak says that Israel is going to disappear by 1948. I'm sorry, 2028, which will be the 80th anniversary, which will be, I am the same age as Israel. And he's saying this because no Jewish kingdom has lasted longer than 80 years. So I think this is a moment of significance in world history, because the United States is the world hegemon. The world hegemon now is no longer has an identity because Protestantism is disappearing. Moving into the Fourth Republic, all of the categories that we accepted as eternal in the Third Republic are now going to be challenged, and most of them will not pass into the Fourth Republic.
And how do you perceive the role of the Catholics in this significant moment?
Okay, so what did I say? 3 ethnic groups in America: Protestant, Catholic, Jew. The Protestants disappear. It's going to be a battle between Jews and Catholics. And the fundamental issue is going to be, is there a universal moral law that all men must follow because God wrote it on the human heart? Or is there a group that are above the law and don't have to follow the law, a group that can kill you if they don't like you? That's the fundamental conflict. This is a worldwide conflict. It goes to the very heart of what we believe to be civilization. Is there a moral foundation to civilization, world civilization? Yes or no? Or is there a racial superiority by these people in Israel that allows them to break any agreement, to kill anyone they don't like, and do whatever they want?
Yeah. So, is there like a international revolutions coming? Is like the whole geopolitical system is going to fall into something
Yes.
totally different?
Yes.
Yes.
We're talking about the end of the American empire. That's exactly what Todt said. The end of the American empire. Well, that's going to be a chart. I mean, when the sun's going to come up, there will still be France over there. There'll still be America over here. But the empire will be gone, and it will be replaced by something new. If you read Vico, you realize that empires rise. They're like human creations. They rise, they come to maturity, they get old, and they die. And it's not the end of the world. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the American empire. And his classic example was the Roman Empire fell, but it was replaced by the Holy Roman Empire, which was the Catholic Empire, which created the great European civilization. So as a Christian, as a Catholic, we know that God is in charge of human history. God, this is divine providence. He can only will the good. And so we can hope for a good outcome. We're all praying for a peaceful end to the American empire. That's what the world needs right now. An end to Jewish hegemony over American politics. That's what we're praying for.
And if we do just a little perspective in this, how do you think all of this is going to change? Do you think that the United States America first, and the United States are going to stay at home, let's say. Do you think that the European Union is going to expand or is going to fall down?
Okay, there are two options: violent end, peaceful end. How did Trump get elected this time around? What was his platform? His platform was America first.
Yes.
And he promised that he was going to end the war in the Ukraine and rein in Netanyahu in Gaza. He didn't do either one. He's already failed as president of the United States because he did not end the war in the Ukraine. That's why people voted for him. Americans are sick of sending our money and our men to die in wars for Israel. The war in the Ukraine was a Jewish operation. It was created by Victoria Nuland and the neoconservative members of the State Department as an attack on Russia because they hate Russia. All of the Jews here came from Russia. And they all have stories about how their grandfathers suffered on the pogrom and this, that, and the other thing. It was one more Jewish war. And so what America first should mean is no more Jewish wars, no more imperialism. Let's go back to being a republic. Let's have a peaceful return to the American Republic, which was its design from the beginning. When Benjamin Franklin was asked by a lady, what type of government have? Right after the Constitutional Convention, he said, a republic if you can keep it. Well, we haven't kept it. We became an empire, which is the opposite of a republic. Empires, according to St. Augustine, are always criminal conspiracies. A republic can be virtuous, but an empire is always a criminal conspiracy.
If I'm following you, the United States empire is doomed, and a whole change is coming.
Right.
Okay.
You're absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So that was the like geopolitical part, and I wanted you to talk about this. But let's go back a little bit on the book because you are an intellectual, you are a teacher, and you are very interested by the literature, the art, and maybe that's probably one of the, I think the core of the book is about art and the important look the viewers have on art, because nowadays modern art, let's say, is rubbish. It's ugly. And
Right.
you are focusing on different on your different articles. You are focusing on the importance of beauty. Can you
Right.
just talk
Absolutely.
a little bit about beauty and the important part of beauty
Yes.
in civilization?
Yes, you're right. Beauty is a transcendental. It brings us into the presence of God, along with the good, the true, and the beautiful. All bring us into the presence of God. And the United. So this is art has always been imitation of nature. Europe took a tremendous step forward with Giotto, who broke with Greek models, and what you had was the greatest outpouring of art in human history, which happened in Italy over a period of 4 or 5 centuries. And everybody went to Italy to learn how to do painting, except for the French, who stayed at home in Paris, and they had their own type of artwork. They did their own art. The crucial thing that happened in 1907 when a German Jew by the name of Kahnweiler showed up in Paris. He was an art dealer, and he went immediately to two people, Picasso and Braque, and he created this new art movement called Cubism. This was a fundamental break with the tradition of the West, which is mimesis. Art is imitation of nature. Suddenly, it became this subjective portrayal of your feelings, and Picasso was the main villain in this regard. He was backed by the Jew Kahnweiler, and what he did, he could have done representational art, but he was a slave of his passions. He was the slave of his sexual passions, and this became the hidden grammar of Cubism. It's sexual disgust. That's the hidden grammar of Picasso's Cubism. So when he falls in love with a woman, any of these, whatever, all the girlfriends that he had, he does mimetic art. He portrays the woman as beautiful. And then when he gets disgusted, when his lust takes over and he gets filled with sexual disgust, that's when Cubism starts in. So what is it? Doris Marr, one of his girlfriends was the name of Marr. Anyway, that's the classic example. Look at the first picture he did of what's her first name? Marr, whatever Marr's first name is. Look at the first picture. Look at Crying Woman. The classic Cubist distortion, and it's a function of sexual disgust. And I'm saying that began not just the demise of French art. That's the beginning of the end of French art. And it then switched to America when, after World War II, New York became the capital of the world. Used to be art. Paris was the capital of the art world. Now it's New York. Now you have another Jew who comes in by the name of Castelli, another Jewish art dealer, who creates another dance craze called abstract expressionism, another attack on mimesis, another attack on beauty. And so you have someone like Jackson Pollock, dripping. Time magazine called Jack the Dripper, called him Jack the Dripper. Then you got the CIA involved, promoting Jackson Pollock as an example of the superiority of American art. And by the end of this, then you have pop art, which is another Castelli creation. That's Andy Warhol. These are all attacks on mimesis, and they are all attacks on beauty that effectively destroyed art as we know it.
Yeah. So the viewers and the people who will read the book will notice this importance of beauty, and it's really important, and I think that your work is very important about this because beauty is very important in civilization. So clock is ticking, so this will be my last question, very last question, in very few words. Perhaps you are talking about the issue of certain opinion leaders. You talked about, for example, Alain Soral just before. And you said that he missed the boat when it comes to playing a decisive role, okay? When you are referring to the Gilets jaunes movement, okay, in the book.
Yeah.
And this is one of the article. And do you think that if there is a counter-revolution in France or any other country, but I'm focusing here on France, does it necessarily require leaders, or will it happen in another way?
There can never be a counter-revolution in France without the participation of the Catholic Church, because you're talking about the deep roots of French identity in the Catholic Church. This is not the case in America. I think Catholics are going to take over America, but it is absolutely imperative that you bring together the Catholic Church now at what I'm proposing in an alliance with Islam. This is what Soral was proposing. I think he was right when he did that, but he was too weak on the Catholic identity. It has to be Catholic Muslim because these are true identities, okay? You cannot have, Sun Tzu, is the Chinese philosopher, said, if you don't know who you are and you can't identify the enemy, you will lose every battle. That is exactly the story of the Catholic Church in the United States of America since 1965. We don't know who we are, and we couldn't identify the enemy. We have to understand that we are Catholic, our ethnic identity in America is Catholic, and the enemy right now is Jewish control of our political process. We have to make those two decisions. If we don't, we will lose. Same thing in France. I'm an outsider, okay, but my impression of Soral was that he didn't have that link with the Catholic Church. He didn't have that link with his Catholic identity, which meant that he didn't know who he was. He could identify the enemy, but he didn't know who he was. We have to bring these two things together, and then we will have a successful revolution. I'll give you one example of this. When libido dominandi, libido dominandi, when that was translated into Polish, I was I did a book tour of all of Poland. The Jews tried to stop me. The first night, the Catholic Church, the Catholic bishop, Cardinal Archbishop of Warsaw, stood behind me and allowed me to give the speech at the Chancery office in Warsaw. And then I went there. I had the support of the Catholic Church. And as a result of that, we defeated gay marriage in Poland. There is no gay marriage in Poland. They have other problems now. The main problem they have now is Russophobia. But we defeated, that's the successful combination. If you have an idea and you have the backing of the Catholic Church, if you know who you are and you can identify the enemy, you will win in the culture wars.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot, Mr. Jones. I'm sorry, but we have to wrap it up, and the clock is ticking. So once again, the book, Les guerres culturelles en Occident, Cultural Wars in the West. The cover will be on the screen for the viewers. Thanks a lot, and I hope we will have an interview again, and we'll talk again about books, art, especially in beauty, because I think this is very important. So thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you for having me.
Merci beaucoup donc aux spectateurs qui nous ont regardés. J'espère que la traduction a fonctionné comme il faut. Et je vous retrouve pour un prochain entretien. N'oubliez pas le commentaire, le petit pouce. Et on se retrouve pour un nouvel entretien très bientôt. À la prochaine.